G'day, my name's Reuben Williams and I started at Cricket Australia on the Monday after my final exam, and today I'm going to talk to you about how I did it. For 3 years I lived the dream here through a roller coaster of events. I was there during the successful Ashes series in 2017, then the fantastic ball tampering incident happened after that, and then the Women's World Cup was next to come. During that time, absolutely loved it. And through the process of getting into Cricket Australia, I had a lot of people reach out to me and say, "Hey Reuben, how did you do it? What was on your resume? What was on your cover letter? What did you say in your interview?" And that led to me starting to teach students how to sell themselves to get into the sports industry. And then that led to the start of the Sportsgrad podcast, which myself and my friend Ryan Walker from Cricket Australia started together. And 3 days after launching it, we became the #1 careers podcast in Australia. And then now we are lovingly sponsored by Deakin University. However, to get to this point, I had to have 3 pretty uncomfortable but critical moments, defining moments that allowed me to start working in sport. When I started at Deakin University doing an exercise science and sport management degree, I'd come from 1.5 years of marketing, and so I dropped out, swapped degrees, and was just getting ready to start a new degree in something that I thought I was passionate about. However, at the same time, I had also been working at this bakery for 6.5 years. And during my time in this bakery, I had this shift one day. I had to come in and collate a group assignment, which I had left a bit too late. And so I thought I need to cram it in. I need to spend some time at work to actually get this assignment done. So I brought my assignment into work. My boss found out about that, and he called me up as soon as he could and said, "Hey Reuben, you're fired. That's not good enough." And so the first defining moment for me was being fired from this bakery and having to go and tell all my friends and family why I had been fired. And that was enough to make me feel incredibly embarrassed. And was enough to kind of spark me to go and do something, to try and actually to be something significant, because I didn't want to feel like an embarrassing failure in front of my friends and family again. So that was defining moment #1, and that really taught me how to work hard. And so after that, I applied for every job under the sun, and that's one of the reasons how I came to start teaching other people how to apply for jobs, was just going through the process of applying for so many different types of jobs. And eventually it led me to apply for this job with Australian University Sport. Now, they're based up in Queensland. I'm in Melbourne. I didn't know how it was going to work, but I thought I'll just apply for this job. We'll see what happens next. And one day the manager, Siobhan, messaged me and said, "Hey Reuben, we're coming down to Melbourne. Do you want to meet up in the city?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, sure thing." So I go meet her in the city, and she starts talking to me about the internship. And now at this point, there'd been no sort of formal interview or screening call or anything, just casual chat in the city that happened to be in Melbourne. And she started telling me about the internship and how the person would be required to help collect data on the student athletes going to Rio 2016, and then how they would be required to go to France as part of this conference for international university sport. And then the following year, they'd be required to be part of their headquarters team supporting the Australian Uni Roos at the World University Olympics. And eventually she started changing the pronoun from they to you, referring to me. And I was like, I had to confirm with her at the end of it. I said, "Siobhan, hang on, you want me to go to France this year, and then next year you want me to go to Taipei?" And she just stood there and was like, "Yeah." And I was like beside myself. At this point in time, I had, dropped out of 1 degree, been fired from a bakery, which is almost impossible to be fired from. And now someone wanted me to go overseas and represent them. And I thought, this is great. And then I got to France, and rather than it being the holiday that I was expecting, I was given a massive wake-up call. Because when I got there, I was introduced to all these like incredible students from around the world. And we were standing in the circle, and they were talking about how did you get selected to come on this trip. And these people from the US were talking about the essays and interviews and tests that they had to go through to, beat hundreds of candidates to get here. And they turned to me and they're like, "Reuben, how did you get here?" And I was like, I'm pretty sure they just forgot to advertise the role. But if you want to be good at anything, you have to have a vision. And so these students became my yardstick. All I wanted to do was be more like them. And so defining moment number 2 was being able to hang out with them for a week, see where they're at, and now have something to work towards. And one of the things that they were doing back home in their own countries was get really involved with their home universities. So the first thing I did when I got back home was call up the Deakin University Sports Society and ask to join the committee. Now, we got to the end of that year and we were hosting our annual industry networking dinner. And I was asked to invite some guests along. And now I had this bloke's contact details named Wayne. I didn't know him very well, but I knew he worked at the Melbourne Football Club. And I thought, let's get him involved. So I invited him, he came along. I didn't really chat to him too much in the night because I was a bit scared to approach him. But then the next day I thought, I better call him. I better reach out and say thank you for coming. And then at the last moment, I decided that I should really get to know him. And I thought it'd be a good idea to ask to have a coffee with Wayne. And so I pulled out my phone, dialed his phone number in, and then the thoughts just like started creeping into my mind. You know, don't waste his time. He's going to say no. He's got much better things to be doing. Don't even bother asking for a coffee. And so for 25 minutes, I was like pacing around my backyard thinking like, call it now. And I just like couldn't bring myself to do it. Eventually, I gathered up the courage, got out of my own way, pressed call, talked to Wayne, asked him for a coffee. He said yes. And that led to a snowball of opportunities that were created for myself. And that was probably the number one defining moment that helped me to get into sport. When I was able to get out of my own way and actually allow myself to pursue what I really wanted, it started to open up so many doors and started to give me so much confidence to go and pursue a career in sport. And when you've got confidence, you can absolutely go for anything that you want. And so I did. And so for the next year and a half of my degree, I had an internship with Australian University Sport. I was doing a strength and conditioning internship with a group out of Amy Park. I was running sessions in schools for the Hawthorn Football Club. I was the operations manager for the Paran Junior Football Club. I was on the committee of my local football club and my local cricket club. I was trying to work 2 new casual part-time jobs that I was determined to hold on to. I was trying to have a social life and, trying to be a good brother and, hang out with my family and trying to play footy and cricket all year round whilst doing 4 subjects a semester at the same time. And I'm not telling you all of this to brag or to show off, but to show you that if you really want something, it's absolutely possible. Because what happened was an opportunity came up at Cricket Australia and my interview got booked for half an hour and it lasted 1 hour. And after the interview, 2 hours later, I went back to the Deakin University Library where I was studying for my final exams and I got a phone call. And I left the quiet area of the Deakin Library and it was Sharon from Cricket Australia. And she said, "Reuben, we'd love to offer you a position at Cricket Australia." And that moment where I was able to clear like absolutely everything, all the volunteer, all the internships, all those opportunities for one dream job that I was going to seamlessly transition into, was comfortably the most relieving and rewarding moment of my life. Now, you don't have to do absolutely everything that I did, but you just got to be making sure that you're doing more than the person next to you. So have a look around and make an assessment. Are you doing more, less, or the same? And then from there, determine what you're going to do next. Because what's going to happen is at some point in time, an opportunity is going to present itself to you like it did for me, and you're either going to be ready for it or you're not.